Captains, would you like to see more videos like these? What about more on-site coverage of special events and visits to Cryptic Studios? Then visit patreon.com/priority1 to find out how to become a monthly supporter of the show. Because without you, none of this would be possible.
Command codes verified.
All right, Captains, this afternoon we are joined by Nick Tacofangs Duguid. This is not done in post-editing, folks.
That's live.
That is live.
Sort of. Live iPad.
Oh, man. All right, Nick. It's been a while since Vegas.
It's been a couple months,
Did you recoup well?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
You know, post-con depression for a bit, but I'm good.
Yeah.
Good now.
Did you miss us?
Yes. Terribly so.
So this interview will be focused on your crafting progress since Star Trek Lost.
Right, which there's none.
All right, so let's jump right into it. So you, sir, had a hand, from what I'm told, in designing and redesigning the Voyager bridge.
Yeah, well, not even designing. I just built it.
Yeah,
the design was all done in 1994, right? So I guess I can load that.
No, never mind then. Who did that? Maybe we can call him.
That would be Rick Sternblog. No, I guess I don't. Who's set design back then? Maybe Drexler.
Could be.
I don't know who was. Zimmerman might have been part of that. I don't know.
Like the creator of the holographic doctor program?
No, Hank Zimmerman, Herman Zimmerman.
Oh, right.
He was on TNG not set design, but like production designer kind of guy. Akuda's probably had a part in it. I don't know exactly who was responsible for the TNG or for Voyager's bridge, though. Sorry, I'm closing 1,000 ships. Or was it 47? The ship designers just left a mess that I have to clean up for them now. I guess I don't have to. I could have just switched editors and said screw it, but I'm a good guy and I will close all of their ships.
I love that it turned out to be 47.
I'm not kidding that they probably did that on intentionally. Like they probably got
we
somewhere
only need
near.
one more.
Yeah, exactly. They got to 46 or something, and they're like, we need one more.
But not three more.
Not three more.
Not four, 3 more.
One shall be the number to which they
count. What are we looking at? Do we want to look at the player ship, or do we want to look at the mind meld map?
Let's look at mind meld first. What do you?
Well, I mean, they're basically just the same. They're using the same assets. One that's just a little bit trippier.
What about
the
one that
the mind meld.
Think you're running into walls and stuff? I like
yeah, that's the mind meld map. Celeste. Yeah, that's it. Go there.
All right, so Nick, not only did you have to build the Voyager bridge, but then you also had to build the environment for mind meld.
Yeah, well, it's mostly the same.
Mm-hmm.
We did a few tweaks here and there, but we basically were just using the kit that we made for Voyager for the Intrepid interior. We relit some things, and we obviously added some brick walls and some other little weird trippy things, but mostly it's all the same stuff that we had already made. Yeah.
Now, what as this is loading up, what challenges did you face with mind meld though? Because it wasn't the ship itself was, for the bridge looked the same, but as you walked through the bridge, the ship itself, things were not quite right.
Yeah, I mean, we intentionally didn't follow the kind of canon layouts for some of the decks that you go to. So like you go to the mess hall deck, potentially it's one of the options, and you started a turbolift that if this was the actual Voyager, you would be outside in space where that turbolift is. So we had to kind of specifically avoid doing the canon layout on that, and then we tried to mimic the canon layout as best we could with the player ship interior, so that actually matches.
But this is just for mind meld. This
was just for the mind meld that we messed with it. So yeah, there was some challenges with that, but I mean that was fairly simple. I mean the challenge of it was just trying to get everything accurate, and so that didn't really matter if it was the mind meld map or the player ship. We were doing both pretty much simultaneously. We just worked on one room at a time, and then there was a few tweaks here and there for the mind meld. But a lot of that mind meld stuff was all on Jesse Heinig, who was the designer that made the mission and did all of the harder work on that. So it takes a while to load because this is a huge map with all of the player ship interiors. Why are you not going
magic.
away?
So with translating the pretty well-established space of the Voyager bridge and some of the interiors into the game system to be playable, what sort of issues cropped up as far as like scale or camera angles and that sort of thing?
Well, you guys probably know as well as everybody that we've gotten a lot of crap over the years for how giant a lot of our older interiors are. And I don't think anybody on the team feels that those were done right necessarily at this point, but it's, that was 4 years ago and a whole different crew at that point and different time constraints and all that. So, I mean, we really tried hard to get things to be as accurate in scale as well as everything else to the show. We certainly had to take some liberties so that the ceiling heights are a little bit bigger, but they're not 20 feet tall. There's the cutscene for it. They're 15 feet tall or something. So they're still, over the, 9 or 10 foot ceilings that were originally there. But they're not crazy huge. And so everything is, a little bit adjusted just so that we can kind of fit gameplay and our camera and all of that. But for the most part, I mean, I tried really hard to make sure that it felt like the actual space. So if we scaled something up, I would try to adjust things as well to match that same scale so that everything kind of scaled more universally rather than just moving everything up by a couple of feet. So this is the transporter room that we're in now. Yeah.
I was going to ask, do you have the ability to show us the tool that you use? Like what?
Sure. So we have a whole editor. Yeah, that's right. We loaded the proper editor. So this is the world editor. And now I am in free cam mode and I can fly pretty much wherever I want to.
Oh.
So this is how we mostly edit stuff. And then when we, have made a level or something, we drop in as a character and run around in it to see how it feels. Because this is the important view, but this is makes it easier to edit things view. Hold on a second.
This is the view that people have when they go outside of Earth space dock or get up on places they're not supposed to.
Yep, same thing. So you can see we've got, there's the bridge. We've got some hallways here that are all laid out. Those are all on grid. And then this is the whole transporter room. This is just one, it's made up of a bunch of different objects that are all grouped together, and then we save that off as one thing so that the designers can just say, give me a transporter room, plop, and the whole thing goes in together. So this is all on the same grid as the hallways here, and the turbo lift does the same thing. So everything is fairly easy to just snap together once we have everything made. This is pretty much what we do. I guess I can edit layers.
Can we see that view when it comes to all that weird stuff?
All the purple stuff?
All the,
what?
On Mind Meld when you think you're going one way and then you run into
a
wall.
So we can advance through to the astrometrics level. Yeah, here's the astrometrics level. Okay, there we go. So we have to skip the first part, but basically leave the turbo lift and you're in this little one-way and dead-end hallway that dumps you at this brick wall. But as soon as you do that, it unhides a path to continue on. So you keep finding your way through all of this, and it's all set up with dev magic to basically swap things. So right now you'll see that there's no way through here. This is the only way forward, so you come through. Do we have K-Kill set up? Yes, fabulous. Blah, blah, blah. Nope, that door doesn't open. Hey, there's a door. Nope, wrong way. Has anybody translated this yet, or did you guys?
No.
Have you seen this? Okay, so I had to do some research on Vulcan calligraphy to actually get a word, proper word in there.
Those zombies?
Cool. So these are all. Do you remember when the Voyager encountered this Borg vinculum. It was like a Borg thing out in space that was kind of a collection of memories of the Borg, but it wasn't really it wasn't a cube. It was like what was at the center of the cube at one point.
Yeah, I
remember this?
That one, yeah.
They pulled it onto Voyager. It was in engineering, and it was messing with Seven, and so she kept having these flashes. So it was like psychically connected to Seven, and so she kept having these flashes to being in a Borg cube where all of these like psychic echoes of various assimilated people were. So she kept encountering all of these kind of zombie-like people in this dream state on this cube. And since Seven mind melded with Tuvok, those people are now showing up in here. And so you would have already talked to Seven at this point in here. So now notice that this wall showed up and that wall disappeared. So things move around as we keep going through.
Now, when you go up above with your dev powers, what is it?
All those pieces, all the layout is all here the whole time. It's just we are literally hiding and unhiding one wall. So this used to be a wall here, and we just unhide that wall. Or this wall didn't used to be here, and we unhide that wall, so it's there.
Okay.
So most of the kit pieces are all in place the whole time. And obviously, this is not a proper deck layout for Deck 8 with astrometrics and all that. So, one more dead end. We go back, and hey, that big long hallway we went to before isn't there, except, of course, it's still there, but it's behind a wall. And so you walk through.
This was a really fun mission.
Now, are these tools, or is this something that a Foundry author can kind of fake or
sure.
rig?
They could. Foundry can turn Lleo on and off just the same way we can. So they could make a mission like this that's activating walls to turn on and off. They do it a lot, actually, already. We're just kind of doing that a lot in this one mission rather than... usually it's just kind of a one-off thing. You swap something once to be something different.
Right.
But yeah, you can certainly do that in the Foundry. So this is where... If you've played this before, you remember the snowman that was upside down on the ceiling.
Yes.
When we originally made this mission... Jesse wanted some just kind of wacky stuff to indicate that you're in the mind of Tuvok, but it just didn't feel right with the tone of the rest of the mission, and so we ended up trying to figure out other things that we could do with it. So ignore the front of Voyager out there. So that's what you would actually see if you were playing properly. And so we tried just ripping off one of the corridors to indicate that it's not right, but...
What is it? Does it actually end there, or is there something else?
There's just a broken off corridor
cool.
piece that I messed up, and I basically just cut off the edge of it and then moved points around to make it look like it got twisted up a little bit and painted it to be darker so it looked like it got blasted.
So when making a level like this, and not just in my meta, but let's say in the actual Voyager interior, there are already existing assets that you take from, and then you click and drag it, and it snaps into place, or...
Yeah, actually. So let's see. We can actually do that here. So I'm not going to bother editing. I guess I already have this checked out, but I'm not going to actually edit a proper layer. I'm just going to make a temporary layer that I'll work with so that we can place stuff down and mess with it. So we have a whole asset library here, which has all of the stuff. Everything that we make is in here. At least from the environment side, characters and stuff are separate. So all the Voyager stuff is in here. Oh, that is the transporter layer. Okay, so we're gonna we're gonna put it in here instead of astrometrics, just because it will be easier. We will turn off all of our volumes so we can see stuff, and then we will maybe place down things. Why are you not? No. Okay, we'll delete that and we'll place something new. So, oops, it showed up in the ceiling, but there's the desk. Now there's a desk in the hallway for some reason, right?
Cool.
So that could have been something that we might have done for the mind meld. You can see collision isn't always working when we first mess with stuff. But we'll, rebin the map and then things will show up. So if we wanted to, we can drag this over here and put it on the transporter pad or whatever. And then, maybe we want her chair. So we'll put that in and we can move that around a little bit. And so there's chairs. I posted a picture recently of with the sit nodes to explain how sittable objects work, and it freaked people out.
It was so
So here's the chair, and here's the chair with the sit node. So now if I actually, if I don't spawn on the ceiling, if I come over here, I can run off to the side, and then click. No, it's just not working. I'm guessing that that because we're running on a computer that doesn't normally run the engine, it's just not set up to do some of this stuff. But in theory, I could have then sat down in that chair. But if you didn't want it to be sittable, we have non-sit versions of things. Why are you not letting me select things?
So you took pictures and what like how much digging did you have to do to get Voyager in the game? Like what did you have access to that maybe no regular person might have had access to?
Not much. I mean, we really 90% of what I did anyway was just going through the episodes on Netflix and taking pictures. Here, I'll show you my reference folder. CN users Intrepid. So here's the basically the entire Intrepid interior reference folder that we have. So we have folders for each of the rooms. So each of these things, we have some of the non-Netflix captures. So these are just like Google image search stuff and whatever we could find on Google, basically, which included, you'll notice that like some of these are models that other people have made. So they're not even necessarily photos of the set, but they're still good reference sometimes.
That's the Oculus Rift, right?
Yeah, I think that might have been the Rift images, but I don't remember. There was a bunch of different mods and things that people have made. So there's some of these that are like, clearly these are set photos that were taken when it wasn't in filming, right? So these were probably in some magazine, I don't know. But they're well lit, and so they're nice to see some details. But the problem is they're all tiny, right? So we can't actually tell like what any of this stuff is, or one of the biggest problems on the bridge is what the hell does that ceiling look like? And there aren't very good images of it. There's a few of these that are like way skewed, but they're not really good at explaining like what the angles are on these. So there's beams here, and there are 8 of them. So you'd say, oh, well, they're all at 45 degrees to each other. They're not. They're at like, some of them are at 13 degrees to each other, and some of them are at 56 degrees to each other. And so it took a long time to try and figure all that out. And basically I did that by going through and counting the number of these lights and seeing how many of them are all the way around, and then dividing that by 360, and then trying to figure out what, so each of these lights is roughly 13 degrees, so this will be 26 degrees or something like that, and then try to figure out the angles from all of that.
It'd be nice to have access to the set designers for the
Sure,
show,
and so so here's concept art from when they were building it originally. There's a little bit of the ceiling, but that doesn't tell you a whole lot. And if you just looked at this normally, you'd say that these are straight across from each other, but they're not. They're slightly angled from each other. So there are some bridge overlay or floor plans that are available. Some of these are fan made. I have one from Rick Sternbach originally that it was kind of the guidepost, and so that's what I did to start basically is I take these floor plans, and I'll show you some others that we have, and I literally put this on a plane in 3D Studio Max, and I just go through and cut this out and then extrude that up, and then I use that as I don't use that as final geo, but I use that as a reference for where everything should be roughly, and we adjust that a little bit so that if we have the center point here and this door is close to being at 10 degrees, but it's actually at 7.5 degrees or 9.3 degrees off of 0, I'll just put it at 10 and adjust some things a little bit to make that match up. So there's a bunch of reference here. X asterisk is great for that stuff. Some of these were great too, because like seeing the backs of these consoles is a rarity in the show. Usually you're just looking at the front of Tuvok or Kim. You don't see what their consoles actually look like. So that took a long time. There's the little side chair that is on some of the stations that there are no real good images of, and this is from the Christie's auction. When they actually auctioned off the site, or the chairs and the desk and the pieces. Janeway's desk was another of those that I just could not find a good image of, like the whole desk or the back of the desk or anything. Christie's had auctioned it off, so I found a decent image there. And that's actually, that desk is in 2 pieces, and so the front piece was fairly obvious, but the back piece wasn't. So here's another fan design, or fan floor plan, basically showing what they thought the floor plan was. So there's a bunch of this kind of stuff that we go through, right? And then, so then that was just the Google reference, right? So then we have a whole Netflix folder with pretty much, we have like 100 images on each of these, and I literally just went through and watched episodes. And then what's nice with Netflix is you can just hover over the bar and it will show you a little preview image, and I just kind of scroll along until I say, oh, there's the room that I'm looking at, and I click and I watch that scene and I take screenshots of it. And so there's a whole lot of, it's all stuff you've seen before, but at the same time, like, this is the best reference we can find. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it's not in Blu-ray, and unfortunately, there's, things that I'll never be able to see. One thing that a lot of the floor plans missed and was hard to see is that there's actually a step down here into Janeway's office, and same with the briefing room. And so that was something that I almost missed. I made it flat at first, and then I noticed that there's actually a little cutout here and a step down. And so that was pretty hard to notice. There's a bunch of little stuff like that is just like, we'd be going along for a while, and then, I would suddenly have a revelation about how one thing, worked, or what some little thing looked like. So there you can see too, there's this little cutout and one step down.
And there's no, have you tried to reach out to CBS and?
I haven't personally. I'm Facebook friends with Doug Drexler and Rick Sternbach and the Okudas. And so I've poked them a couple of times when I have very specific questions, but I don't want to just pester them with things. So I try to make that very pointed and specific things if I have a real specific question about how something works. Or like I had a question for Doug on some little element that is in the MSD that I've seen repeated on other MSDs, but it's never labeled. Nobody ever explained what it was. And so I just was like, hey, Doug, what's this thing? And he's like, oh, that's a lab with a decompression chamber. I'm like, oh, clearly, why would I not know that out of the 3 pixels of it that we can see, right? So yeah, there's a lot of, I try to do that, but I try to limit it as much as I can. So there's that little stupid chair that I had to find the Christie's picture to model properly, because there were,
You'd think that rolling chairs on a starship is not a good idea.
They all have rollers, including Tom's. Tom's is the same. Tom Paris's chair is the same as this, but it's got this big metal cover over it, over the base, to make it not look like it's a rolling chair, which I think is kind of hilarious. So yeah, there's a ton of this stuff.
Someone's going to say, Elijah, they're magnetized.
That's right. No, but I mean, if you watch, I mean, that is clearly a rolling chair, right? Like, there's no question. That is just an office rolling chair.
Pick that up from
so there's, so that's a lot of, and that's really what it is just going through each of these, so I have a folder on pretty much every room that we built, and probably a few that we didn't. The cargo bay was something we actually just built recently. So this actually, I've got one folder that has the cargo bay, but then I've also got a folder within that for airponics and for Seven's cargo bay, because they're all using the same room, and the holodeck is using the same room too, but they're all dressed slightly differently. This is kind of funny because I guess I can't really illustrate it here, but the cargo bay, the door is on the back side from where we're standing now, so it's like we're looking from the door. So the main door into the hallway, I should say. So the hallway door is at one end. When you walk in the cargo bay from the hallway, what looks like should be the space door, the door that leads out into space that you would load cargo through, is to the left at the back end. But you'd expect that the door, like, there's a hallway that goes this way, so that hallway either goes out into space or dead ends at the hull, like 10 feet down the road right there. And this is a Kazon radar that has just punched through the wall opposite from the door. So the outside of the ship is on all three sides of this room, depending on what you want to, what episode you're watching. And also, Cargo Bay 2 is everything. So Cargo Bay 2 was supposed to be, Seven's Cargo Bay was Cargo Bay 2. Neelix suggested, and the captain said that they should convert Cargo Bay 2 into a holodeck early on in the series. Cargo Bay 2 is aeroponics. Cargo Bay 2 is a cargo bay. So there's at least like 5 different uses for Cargo Bay 2 that are all just the same thing. So this was a lot of challenge because of these things, these pillars and stuff, trying to figure out how they aligned. Some of these look really tall. So like that looks like it's, almost 20 feet tall above her, right? But some of them look a lot shorter, and so you'll see up front there's the same panels, but they're a lot shorter. And it turns out that there's actually just a division, but you never see that division line where some of them are smaller and some of them are taller. And so it took a long time to figure all that out. Yeah, so there's just a ton of that, of just going through, trying to find the little details, figure out what everything is. There's a lot of reuse of things too. Like this is actually that kind of corrugated material that they use all over the place. It took a long time before I found a shot that really showed that off. Otherwise, I would have just made it black. Yeah.
That vehicle's VIN number you had to...
Not quite. But the 37s was actually a great episode because they're showing off the truck, there are angles in here that they don't show normally. Like, hey, look at where there's a light back there up on the ceiling, right? Like, there's no other episode that shows that particular corner of the ceiling off. And so it looks like I'm taking this picture of this, but I'm really just paying attention to what's up here in this little area of the image.
That's a fascinating way to be studying and watching these episodes is we watch it because it's Star Trek, right? I'm not watching it for the corner on the top right,
What's
there.
the texture
what is
on
that?
the lower portion of the wall?
And it's amazing. It's just
this is another good example too. This door, I mean, I had some pictures of what it looked like from the side, but you can see here what the actual division between things looks like, which isn't something that is normally shown in most places. So there's a lot of that.
I'm sure Netflix has a problem with you taking so many screenshots.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, why not? It's, I don't know that it's a big deal. It's an advertisement for their service, if nothing else. I mean, hell.
Subscribe to Netflix.
You bet. It's served us countless times.
Netflix reps, we will accept your advertising dollars.
Awesome.
So yeah, so that's just one of those folders, and then we've got tons more of Seven's Cargo Bay, with the alcoves. That took a little bit of trying to figure out how we can use our assets to make the alcoves, and then we had to build the platforms basically for that. I've got aeroponics reference, but we haven't built any of the aeroponics stuff. So maybe sometime we'll get back to aeroponics and do that. But a lot of these too, I mean, Trek Core is great because they have screenshots of all these episodes, but the screenshots are all like 5 seconds apart, which sounds like it would be nothing. But some of these, like this shot is 2 seconds, and it falls between the screenshots that Trek Core takes. Then, so like you kind of have to watch it in order to really get that view. And and there's no other episode that shows that view of things. So anyway, I'll stop boring you with this, and you can go into Rikosa.
Well, Nick, thank you so very much for walking us through the creation of the interior for Voyager. I mean, it's when we saw the screenshots hit in the front page of Star Trek Online, it was just astounding how screen accurate it is. And now going through the creation of it, I mean, I appreciate it even more. It's phenomenal how you look at episodes very differently than the average average viewer.
And I can't watch the show anymore without noticing those things. So like the hallways. Sorry to keep going with this, but so we have some of these are images of the actual stage. So here is stage 8 at the Paramount lots. This is the bridge. This is the mess hall and the captain's quarters. So they're just built back to back, and you can see there's there's one little hallway outside, and that's it. So we have some of those, and we use those. here's the entire hallway layout of Voyager. So when people call for, we should build a deck by deck, layout of Voyager and it should be, screen accurate. Well, screen accurate means that nothing makes any sense because the transporter is right next to the science lab, which is right next to sick bay, which is right next to the captain's quarters, which is right next to engineering, right? Like none of this makes sense. And so now when I watch this, every time I see somebody walking down a hallway, I'm like, oh, they're at this spot and they're going this way, or they're here and they're going that way, or they're there and going that way, because I can identify every one of these places.
All right.
That's cool.
That's epic. Well, Nick, again, thank you so very much, and we look forward to flying the Intrepid come October. I don't even know what day it is. We look forward to flying the Intrepid on October 14th. I'm already stunned.
That's kill, man.
It's kill.
This is stunned. Where's stunned?
Nick is assaulting me with a JJ phaser.
That doesn't work anymore.
That doesn't even work anymore.
See, I'm shooting myself
sense,
now.
It's a JJ phaser, so it would make sense.
Anyway.
All right. Thank you so much, Nick.
No worries.